Get ready to rise above the noise and unlock your true potential. Welcome to Unapologetic Uplift, the podcast that's all about keeping it real and helping you live your best life. Buckle up. Get ready to learn, grow, and evolve with us on Unapologetic Uplift. New episodes released weekly.
Welcome to Unapologetic Uplift. I'm your host, Kim Staples, joined by my co-host, Ianthe Mauro, and our beautiful guest, Lisa Bolin. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure is all ours. I'm going to hand it over to Ianthe to get started with some intention setting.
I am setting an intention on this candle that this episode has something for you. No matter when you watch it, there is something that you really needed to hear that landed on your ears, went right to your heart. Thank you.
And so it is. We always like to get started with our guests by allowing you the opportunity to introduce yourself, Lisa. And we just want to know what you think the world needs to know about Lisa.
Wow. Okay. No oversharing. My name is Lisa Bolin. I am an Australian and I live in Finland. I'm actually a dual citizen. I'm an Australian and Finnish citizen now. I moved to Finland 7 years ago because I met my soulmate, and that is in itself a love story, a beautiful love story that has spanned several decades, incredibly. Not our love, but our knowing of each other. And in the moving to Finland, I have had to reinvent myself. I have had to dig really deep and get to know myself in ways that perhaps I wouldn't have if I had have stayed in Australia. And I have an education background, and I see myself and feel like I'm an educator. So everything I do, it comes from that kind of place of education, whether it's helping women to discover more about themselves, helping women to connect with their creativity or to connect with themselves. It all comes from an education kind of center, I guess. What else do they need to know about me? Well, I sing in a rock band.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I sing in a rock band. That has been something that I said yes to. One of the other things I'm an advocate for is saying yes to things that even freak the shit out of you.
Yes, me
I will
too.
not do bungee jumping. I draw the line at that. But singing in a rock band, I started maybe it was 6 years ago now, and it was because my husband was in a band and he didn't know I could sing. And I actually didn't know I could sing like I do either. So that is something that now the rest of the world knows. And we actually do have gigs here where I live, and we get paid.
That's so cool.
I know.
I love it. And I am a huge advocate of saying yes to the things that
Yeah.
scare the shit out of us too. So yeah, I want to dive into moving to a different country because that is really terrifying and destabilizing, and people I don't think really appreciate what that entails if they've never considered it. It's a really brave thing to do. So yeah, tell us a little bit about that. Was it because that's where your husband, like Finland is where your husband is from, and you moved for love? And how terrifying was it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because I have had multiple experiences in my life of living in other countries. And it started when I was 4. My family, my parents moved. We were living in Canada, in Edmonton. We lived there for 2 years, and my dad was studying at the University of Edmonton, of Alberta, and we lived in Edmonton in what was called at the time married student housing. So special housing for students who are married. And I lived there. And I haven't been back, which it's on my list of things to do and saying yes to that. So yeah, if anyone in Canada wants to invite me over, yeah, I'm up for that. Yeah, exactly.
Not in Edmonton. I'm in Ontario, but you're
No, well,
welcome
that's
to come to
fine. That's
Ontario.
fine. Once you fly that long, it's all like really close. And then later on, my parents were adventurous and we traveled to the UK and parts of Europe, and we did a 4.5 month camper van trip. I know, and had my 12th birthday in Paris. Like it was incredible. Yeah, and the strangeness of things in my life. And then where I live now, I came here on a Rotary exchange when I was 17, and that's where I first met my now husband. I bought stamps from him at the post office.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
love that. And I love
yeah.
how much you've
And
traveled and
yeah, and
explored.
my host mum at the time would tease me because he would go red in the face when I came in. And, we talked and stuff. There was sort of nothing more than that. And then I lived in Germany for 2 years. So I went home to Australia and I sort of got on with my life and met a guy and we got married. And he was from Germany originally and he did his postdoctoral fellowship in Germany. So I lived in Germany for 2 years and birthed my first child there.
Wow.
So fast forward when we got home from Australia, the idea of moving here wasn't as big as it might have been if I hadn't have had those experiences. And whilst it did mean leaving behind children and parents and a sister, I felt like it was the right thing for me to do at that time. And I still feel that it was one of the most incredible things to do for myself was to follow that soul heart connection, which is still incredible. And we've been together 8 years and it's really beautiful. And I don't sort of think of myself as brave in that sense, but what the things that I didn't kind of think about were the reinvention of myself in terms of I'm landing in a culture that I recognized and remembered and had been in before. But then there's the whole language layer, which I speak Swedish and I speak fluent enough that most people don't even know I'm from Australia or don't even ask. They think I'm from here. But it has meant that I've had to rethink. I was a teacher in Australia and I teach here. I do teach here, but I needed something that was more fulfilling than being a teacher. It was different. It's really different here with language and just the school system. And I was used to teaching English literature in Australia and history and sociology. And I teach mostly when I do teach, it's in primary school. So it's a kind of different level. So what I started to do was kind of delve into myself, connect with my creativity in a way that I hadn't done in Australia, or in a different way, because I had the opportunity. I didn't have the same family situation anymore. And so I started to do things like work out, wow, I have all these mindfulness tools that are really amazing and what a difference it made in my life. And so I did a qualification. I'm a mindfulness teacher. And I did the inner MBA, which is with Sounds True and LinkedIn actually. And there's been several cohorts. I think they're up to like 6 or something, but I was in the second group that went through. And it's like an MBA, except it's inner work and it's applicable in the workplace. And that was really significant for me. And it was really a path that made a lot of sense because at the schools that I'd been in, I was involved in pastoral care and I was involved in dealing with groups of teachers for professional development, and I was a leader in that. And so it made sense for me, even though I wasn't at the time working in a workplace, I was able to connect with other people in Europe and also realize that I had this huge range of skills that enabled me to really help and guide people on that inner journey as well. So it's really been here that I've been able to, because of my situation and because I haven't had a job that has taken all of my time and energy that I've been able to find out those things about myself and share them with others and guide others and mentor others on their journey for that kind of inner connection.
Ooh, I am jumping in for a few things because I'm madly writing here things as you're speaking. And the couple things I want to say, first of all, I have to call you poetic because when you describe your life, the love and the different countries, and excuse me, celebrating your birthday in Paris at 12. I mean, your poetry in motion. You're just a poem, and you're also beautiful. Your words are beautiful. I want to encourage everyone go and follow Lisa Bolin in all of the places where she is. I follow her on Instagram, and I want to say this. How did we meet? Okay. We met online. I want you to notice something. We're three women that I feel a sisterhood with. I feel a sisterhood with Kim. I feel a sisterhood with you, Lisa. I often call both of you my sisters that I've found in this life. And it's so beautiful because we met online. This can happen for you. If you are watching right now and you feel lonely and you feel like, what am I doing? I've moved somewhere that I feel uncomfortable. You can find your sisters in this lifetime on a social media app. So we met on an app called Clapper. It is hilarious that we met there, but all three of us met online. Okay, so I had to say that.
Yeah,
the other thing it is that we can create connection and you can find your people no matter where you are and not allow yourself to be isolated. I also have to scream from the rooftops that yes, you are brave and courageous, even by virtue of you explaining that you are an advocate for saying yes to things that scare you. That is to me the definition of courage. And I know how displacing and destabilizing it can be to move to a new place. And even though you admit that you were raised having that fluidity of place and time because of the way your parents raised you, because you're able to speak languages. I'm in the United States. You're in Finland, originally from Australia. Kim is in Canada. We all know the stereotype of the United States. We don't speak any languages. We expect we roll up anywhere in the world and we're like, you better speak English or we're not giving you our money. It's just ridiculous. It's gross. But I have such a huge, huge respect for people who learn other languages, other cultures, put themselves in that place to not be an outsider, but to find where can I find a commonality. So I'm wondering, my question to you, a couple. One is, please define when you said you're a mindfulness teacher, you're a mindfulness person. I want to know how you describe and explain what mindfulness means. And the second part to my question is, what would you say to a woman who's listening right now and she's very afraid to make a move?
Okay. Yep. Two big questions there. So it's interesting. I think mindfulness gets a little bit of a rough end of the stick or yeah, how do I say it? Like people, they kind of just don't understand what
it becomes cliche, I think.
Yeah, it does. And it's overused and people kind of use it. A lot of people say to me, well, I can't clear my mind. And I'm like, well, do you think I can? It's like, for me, mindfulness is a practice. And it's a practice of being in the present. And you can do that practice anywhere. And it doesn't have to look like meditating on a mountain in whatever clothing, it can be anywhere. You can do it on the toilet. You can stand in the queue at the supermarket and have a mindful moment. And it's anchoring with something, and it might be doing a body scan, or it might be focusing on your breath. And it can be as simple as 3 intentional and a little bit longer than normal breaths. That's all it has to be. And for me, I think there's a lot of people who are mindful, look a certain way and behave a certain way and eat certain foods and do certain things. And yes, they are mindful, but there are other ways of doing it. And I recently wrote about, can I have a beer with my mindfulness, was the name of the thing that I wrote, because I like drinking beer. I don't necessarily drink it every day. Menopause has stopped me from doing that. No, I bet, like, I live with a brewer too, a home brewer, and we enjoy that. And yes, you can. You can have a beer and be mindful, and you can wear whatever clothes you want and be mindful. You can be standing there and your kids running around you screaming, and you can be mindful, and it includes everybody, and you can build on that. And some days are better than others, and it's a practice. And that's why I feel like we've forgotten that mindfulness practice has fallen off for some people. They forget that it is a practice and that we're practicing doing it, and that showing up is part of the importance of it, because you're realizing that being in the present, it's the essence of ourselves is in the moment, and it's in the moment. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
It makes me think of how you can be spiritual and eat meat.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And I mean, probably health-wise, don't eat a whole shit ton of meat because like it, but there is intention, if being more intentional and thinking a little bit more about what you're doing. Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't exclude certain jobs or careers or kinds of people. Anyone can be mindful in any place, and it does develop a good connection with yourself the more you do it. And you can read the studies, and yes, there are studies that say that 20 minutes a day is really good, but there are people who cannot do 20 minutes a day, and that is okay. Like 3 minutes a day is better than no minutes a day. 3 breaths a day is better than not focusing on your breathing and not developing that connection. So that's where I come from in that sense. And your second question is...
Well, before we get to that, I'm going to interrupt because another one came up. You said body scan.
Yeah.
You said body scan, and I'm the queen of let's define terms. So I want to know how you do a body scan, because quickly it'll be so important for people to know what you mean when you say that.
Yeah. So when I talk about doing a body scan, it can take the time it takes. But if you are, for example, standing in the queue at the supermarket, and we've all been there, haven't we? You will stand there and you will think about, how is my head feeling? How is my face feeling? And you're checking in with parts of your body, and you just can ask the questions in your head if you want to. And I mean, depending on where you are, you might not be able to really focus on your breath, but you're really just connecting right at that time. Am I holding tension in my jaw? Am I holding tension in my neck? How are my shoulders feeling? And you're doing a tiny little adjustment as you stand there. You go down your body, check in. How's my belly? How are my hips? You hold a lot of tension in your hips. And I often find when I do that body scan, I'm just like, whoa, yeah, I can relax there. Go down into your thighs, and then down lower leg, and then feet. That is a body scan for me. And you can do it much slower, and you can have a guided process where you can even check in with your organs. I've done some incredible body scans that are really detailed, and it's also amazing. But it's not like one or the other. You can do all of that. So yeah.
It's reminding me of, I had a theater teacher when I was in not high school, right after high school. When I graduated, I went right into a theater conservatory, and my director, I'm going to say his name, he's so amazing, Paul Barnes. And he said, I'd never heard this before, and he said, relax your sphincter.
Yeah.
And all of us realized my butthole was so tight. What am I doing? I never thought about it. And it was so unconscious, but I would be like holding, and just hearing that alone, that's what first, and we didn't call it a body scan at the time.
No, but it is. Yeah.
But it's part of that, being aware.
He probably would have been aware that when you're in a space like that there are certain reactions to being in spaces that your body does. And that's probably one of them when you're around a lot of people, and maybe, that part of your body tightens up. And it is amazing. It is, because every time, and depending on where you are, it'll be a different part of your body, or you'll start noticing there's part of me that's always tense. And then you can get curious, and you can go a little bit deeper, start asking yourself questions. And that's something that I really advocate for, is that you're asking your body. Your body has so much knowledge, and you can ask your body questions, and it will come up. It will come up.
I noticed, Kim, you were touching your head for a second. It reminded me, Kim is genius tapping. She leads people in tapping. And it's so beautiful, because there are times we're tapping along and I realize, wow, my eyebrow is really holding a lot of tension. I didn't realize it. But anyway, I love that. So yes, my second question, which I am excited to hear you answer, is how do you help someone, a woman right now is afraid, she's thinking, I need to move, I want to move. but I'm really afraid. So how do you speak to her?
I guess, I mean, part of it's multi-layered, and it would depend on the reasons that you're moving for and what are the things that you're most concerned about. So it's really like naming what the fears are and looking at the reasons of what is kind of preempting or motivating the move that you're about to make. So for me, my personal situation, and that's the other thing that I wanted to say too, is that the way you move, if you're moving country, I mean, moving city too, I have done that as well. And Ianthe and I have had those conversations around that. Any time that you move somewhere and you're leaving behind a community that you have had and you're moving somewhere where no one knows you, it's huge. So it doesn't have to be country. Sometimes moving country, though, comes with the layer of moving to another culture and another language and really different climate in my case. I mean, I don't love snow. I'm sorry. I really don't love snow.
And you're in Finland.
And I'm in Finland. I know.
Okay.
I don't like it either, and I'm in Canada.
Yeah, exactly. I know. It's like, how many meters of snow do you have? So that will depend, because people who they're moving because they have a job and their company is paying for them and they're supporting them and they maybe supply accommodation, and you might even have some kind of built-in network with that company, is a very, very different experience to what I have done, for example, where I moved from Australia to Finland to be with this soulmate, and he's lived here almost his whole life, and he has family here and his roots are here, and it's a really different experience, which is, again, very different to if you up and move as a couple or a family to another country without any of that stuff, which I know people who've done that. In fact, I kind of did it myself when I moved to Germany. So, I mean, we did have a bit of support because there was a workplace involved, but those scenarios, it'll feel very different. And I think getting to the root cause of the fear is something that, because it can connect to other things, other experiences in your life. And it's also about letting go, and there would need to be some kind of discussion around that, and to talk about your fears and talk about those reasons why you're nervous or why you don't want to do that move. And I think we probably don't talk about it enough, because certainly when I moved city, within Australia, I moved city a couple of years, maybe 3 or 4 years before I moved to Finland. And it was huge. And there was so much to do, packing up a house that I lived in for 7 years, and my kids had gone from quite small to sort of early to mid-teens. And so you have a lot of stuff, you collect a lot of stuff with kids. And I didn't have enough of the conversations around what's going to happen when I arrive. And I mean, I had family and stuff there even, but I think we don't perhaps talk about that enough, because we get so into the to-do list that we forget that they're actually really important things that we need to talk about.
It's bringing up for me is a philosophy that I've carried, that I wonder what you both think of this, but I have this philosophy, for better or for worse, that I will not be attached to geography for my self-identity and my peace. And a lot of people, it's hard because, and I'm not negating in my own, having that philosophy doesn't negate that I understand how torturous it can be to move. And when you feel, especially like your identity, I'm a Californian, for instance. I'm a Californian. I left California in 2019. I'm not a Californian. I do not say that. Even when I lived in California from the age of 7 to the age of 39, 40, 39, 40, 45, 40. Well, how old was I? I don't remember. Years, decades, doesn't matter. Almost 50. I did not ever, even when I lived there, say I'm a Californian. This is a philosophy. I don't know where I got it. I'm grateful for it because it's helped me to be able to navigate all the moves that I've had in my life. There was a 10-year period where I moved 13 times. So I speak from that experience, and it wasn't another country. But I want to tell you people, those of you listening who will know, if you know, you know, I moved from Southern California to rural Georgia. It is almost like living in another country, and they do have very different colloquialisms and ways of speaking. And I'm also not a Georgian. I'm not a girl from Georgia. I don't know. I feel like our planet is small in the universe. We are very small on our planet in the universe. Why are we dividing up all these? I just feel, and this is just I know it's a big subject to throw out, but I guess I think when you talk about, I love when you said name what the fears are. I think that is so key for everything. And I want everyone listening, like if that didn't land on you, I'm going to say it again, but name the fears that you have, because naming it takes the power away, I think. And then we can start to look like, well, why am I afraid of that? What am I really afraid of? And what's underneath that? And for me, it goes back to identifying too strongly with where I am, with where I'm standing right now. I want to identify instead as I am a being on a ball that's flying through space. And it doesn't matter where on that ball I happen to be standing. My beingness and my being in relationship with the people that I love is what matters to me. So,
yeah, I agree. I agree with that philosophy. And my body is my home. And I'm 41 years old and I've moved 40 times. So I do have moved
you
a
win.
lot.
It wasn't a competition.
But I haven't moved country. I have moved to different cities. I want to move to different countries. I like to move. I like change. And that's actually why I started homeschooling my kids, is because we want to eventually explore living in different countries. We're starting with traveling a lot more. And we want to do the RV thing and all the things. But yes, I don't think that it is a great idea to identify with a geographic area and become so attached to living in a certain area. Listen, if we were meant to stay in one place, we would have roots and not feet. And if you go back historically, humans moved to where the opportunity was. We're really not meant to stay in one place. So I am all for exploring, moving, and encourage everybody to be comfortable with being home wherever they are.
Yeah, and I've thought a lot about what does home mean, because people say to me, "Don't you miss home?" And I'm kind of like, well, where's home? It's like, no, I don't miss myself. I'm here with my I'm really good company. I'm hilariously funny. Yeah, it's interesting. And I don't. I mean, there's things that you experience in your life, and like, I love the beach and I love the sea. I'm surrounded by water, but it's not beach that's familiar to me, but I love that I'm surrounded by water. And when I go to a beach that has waves and really salty water and really good sand, I love it, but it doesn't necessarily have to be in Australia. And there are lots of things. I love experiencing new things. And so, yeah, to sort of, so another part of your question is what is that fear about? And is it to do with change? I think it's okay to grieve the loss of leaving somewhere, and not necessarily the geography. For me, it's always been around the community that I've built around me. And what I have discovered, because technology is amazing and thank goodness for it, but in the last 10 years, I mean, we are friends and connect and we know each other. We've never met in real life, yet here you are, two incredible women who I love listening to your podcast and connect on a personal level. We have a chat, and I have other groups that are like that with women from all over the world. And if you're really finding your people on a whole other level, because geography is just only one small part of your life, and I don't feel bound. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to be staying here for the rest of my life. Maybe not. My husband likes to travel too, and we've kind of started a bit of a nomadic life, and technology allows us to do that. So I think we're in an incredible period in time right now that we have those opportunities that we haven't before, to be able to connect on levels with people who really are aligned and people who can mentor us and guide us. I know both of you work with people and probably all over, because the world is like that now. It's open and the connections can be just really incredible, even though we live on different continents.
Yes, thank goodness for the internet.
Exactly.
To be completely honest, my most meaningful connections have been found through the internet. It's how I've found my people.
Yeah.
So I can't express just how much I appreciate and feel grateful for the internet and social media.
Mm. Yeah, it's incredible. And it's not necessarily something that is recognized and that it's given enough credit. People are really ready. I mean, yes, there are social media apps and they're designed to suck us in and spend time on it, but I am grateful every day that I am able to have to connect with women like you and the other incredible women in my life that I'm in touch with daily. I mean, I really almost daily I'm in touch with people in the US, in Australia, all around Europe. It is phenomenal.
The same for me. And I feel too, you did some healing work on me. I wanted to ask you to share what you did because it was one of the biggest, it was like, wow, I have reoccurring slip discs and it's very painful. And some days I can't walk properly and I don't ever complain about it or really talk about it. I'm still figuring out what it is. And I know there's a huge, massive spiritual component to it.
Mhm.
And one day you said to me, I'm doing this healing work and it's just remote and all I need is your permission and I'm going to do this thing. And would you describe, because I swear to you that day, all my pain was gone.
That's
Can you
amazing.
describe what you did?
Yeah, I will. I practice something called the emotion code, and there are different levels, and I'm on just the first level. And I've been practicing for well over a year now with friends and family, and it is kind of my way of giving back to the universe. But what it is, it uses a particular framework, and I use muscle testing. So I ask questions and I think of you. So, like at the start, it needs to be in a quiet place, and I really concentrate and relax and think of the person. So went that day, I thought of you, Ianthe, and pictured you. And I use a series of questions that are yes and no, and use muscle testing and kind of use this framework of the emotion code, and that's freely available on the internet. And the book is really good too. It explains kind of how the process of going through it, which I've read. But it was it's a really beautiful way of releasing trapped emotions. It's from the premise that we have a whole lot of stuff trapped in our bodies. And if you have read Bessel van der Kolk's work, The Body Keeps the Score, you realize your body does keep the score. And that communication that we can have with our body and is really great, but sometimes that's not enough. And you need some extra help, like this work that I do. And I mean, there are other forms that are similar, frequency work, for example, and it works at that level. It's an energetic level, and I ask questions and I get answers and I write things down. It doesn't necessarily make sense to me. I've had this treatment myself. I have a friend who I work with too. And I mean, I had really severe migraines from 25 until about 2 years ago. And I really worked with her with using the same kind of energy clearing. And I have had, I think, one migraine in over 2 years after I
Wow.
was getting them monthly. So it's a really powerful way of clearing those trapped emotions, which may not be yours. It may be inherited.
Mm-hmm.
So I've had 7 generations, 10 generations back. And by clearing it, I am setting the intention of it. I'm clearing it for you and in the past and in the present. So it's clearing it completely from your whole family line, which is amazing and part of what I do. Yeah. Mm.
And also, Kim is a healer. I feel like you guys both have that in common. And I don't call myself a healer, but I feel like everybody is. You know, if we really get to the core of what we're capable of and really what healing means to me, because I'm always telling everyone to define terms, so I'm going to do it on myself. healing to me is reminding people that they have the power to heal themselves, that it exists in us, and sometimes we really need a radical champion to see that in us and to help guide us, and that we can't explain how it works, but the energy, and some people can, I can't, I should say, how energy travels like that, how you can sit there in Finland thinking about me. And please show everybody what muscle testing is, because you mentioned it and I got it. Yeah. And I did that my whole life. I was taught muscle testing. So go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, well, there are different ways of doing it. There are lots of different ways. Some people do it with two fingers, where you ask a question and it's like a yes or no answer. I happen to do it like this. So it's like a release. And yeah, there are different ways of doing it. You can do it with your fingers, but it's just a way. I'm not very good at explaining it either, I don't think.
And I do it differently. Mine is where you hold out a hand and you hold the thing or think of the thing. And you do this to see, well, how strong is it? Your resistance to someone pressing down. And then, and if it's
another
like this.
way is standing and moving backwards and forwards. So yeah, there are multiple ways. I find it really easy to do the finger stuff because I have like reading this kind of framework that we use in the emotion code, and that helps me. But I have used it in other contexts, standing, and sometimes with food. Like another thing you can do with food is put the food, you can't see, but in front of your abdomen, and whether or not you lean towards it or backwards, you do need to kind of center yourself a little bit and not be like a bit manic or in the middle of making dinner, or I don't know, have kids hanging off you. I don't know if it would work like that. I don't know, because I'm not in that situation, but I found that quite useful, that if I'm leaning back, it's like, no, I'm not going to eat that. And if you're leaning forward, it's like, yeah, towards it, the body.
And none of us are experts in muscle testing, but I think if it's something that you're listening to us and you're saying, oh, I'm fascinated, what is muscle testing? I really encourage you to listen to that call and go and seek it out, because there's a lot of information around it. I found it very fascinating. And I love noticing and recognizing when things work without having to always, even though this will sound ironic because I'm always saying define terms. If it works, it works. And I don't always need to know why and how. And I need to trust that. And that's part of our intuitive. And Kim's going like this because I think, I want to hear what you have to say about that, Kim.
Yeah, definitely always follow your intuition. I will champion that all day, every day over any logic or anything up here. We're taught to think with our heads and not with our emotions. And I just want to kibosh that, because it couldn't be further from the truth as far as I'm concerned. Our emotions are beautiful guides, and listen to your gut.
Yeah, just on that, it's taken me a really long time to know what that even means. And I feel like I heard it for a long time and it was like, but how? And how I've gone about that myself, the steps that I've taken, is through mindfulness. It's through getting quiet and checking in with my body and getting curious. And it's the curiosity and the asking of those questions that gets you deeper, and then you realize that's actually my intuition. So it's 100%. I think it's really important to know that there are steps that you can take to get in touch with your intuition, and that is part of also what I do. I mean, really, when I work with somebody, if I'm working with someone one-on-one, for example, and getting in touch with their creativity, you're also establishing this connection with yourself and allowing and honoring time in your day or your week to get quiet and build that connection and that understanding. And you realize that it's not something that comes and whacks you over the head. Like, intuition isn't like that. It's gentle and quiet.
Intuition doesn't scream at you. It's very subtle. The mind is what screams at you. The fear and the anxiety is what screams at you. That's often how I tell people to be able to tell the difference, as like your intuition is going to whisper to you. And yes, mindfulness and being in tune with the body, because when you're mindful and you can tap in and you can feel, like you described doing the body scans, that's something that I teach people as well. When we take time each day to be mindful and to tap into the body, that's when we can start to recognize the little subtleties. And there's a time too, for many, many years, that I was disconnected from my intuition and my body, and I lived in my head. And it really is taking that time on a daily basis, whether it's 5 minutes or 20 minutes or an hour, whatever you can offer yourself. 5 minutes over 365 days multiplies to be quite a bit. And just, how do I feel?
Getting curious, because I think that was the thing that I didn't realize, is that you can ask your body questions, and you can go to bed and ask a question, and sometimes you get the answer, and it's not going to be like a fully formulated answer, but it also might mean that pain has gone away. Or sometimes I'm at the age where you can wake up and just have a random pain. You've done nothing except sleep. And I had a pain in my foot the other day. I woke up and I was like, are you kidding me? I've just been asleep and I've just woken up, and I really saw it when I was walking around, and I started to get curious, and I'm like, okay, well, why would my foot be sore, and why would this spot on my foot be sore, and what is happening in my life, and start to get a little bit curious and connect with that. And I might not have this beautifully formulated answer, but I can tell you that the next day it was not sore. So
yeah.
There's just wisdom in the asking. Sorry, Kim, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, another thing that I like to do is ask, what are you trying to tell me?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever I'm feeling, where I'm feeling it, what are you trying to tell me? And just listen.
And that reminds me of the, why is this happening? How is this happening for me and not to me, is another form of curiosity that can help us reframe, go into gratitude rather than victim mode with anything that's paining us, whether it's emotional, psychological, spiritual, or physical. So this is the point where we ask the second question. We only ever ask two. The second question, because we're on an unapologetic uplift, Lisa, what will you never apologize for?
Swearing. Fuck that shit.
Yay, I love it.
Yeah. So where did you, tell us, just unpack that a slight bit more, because it's a lot of fun. And throw in, pepper us with a bunch of words while you're at it.
Okay, right. Now's the time to get fucking serious, guys. No, the irony of that is that there's a big backstory, and part of it is to do with my parents. After we went to Canada, we moved back to Melbourne, then moved to Adelaide, and then moved to this tiny country town on the bend of the Murray River in South Australia. And I essentially grew up there, and from a good part of my life until I left it at 17 and never kind of went back. And it was one of those places, and I don't know who's listening and how much Australianisms people have heard, but if you've watched any of those shows where they go out into the middle of the desert mining or like opal finding, there are shows like that I think you can watch in the States. Anyway, it was really broad Australian, and there were kids that I went to school with, and people in the town who would just, dropping the fuck bomb, the F word, was just a normal part of their life. And of course I picked that up. I didn't do that at home at the time, but yeah, it started there. And whilst I don't use it all the time, I did use it in front of my kids from time to time, and was eternally grateful they would also use it in context and not just randomly drop it anywhere. I feel like swearing is a part of me. I don't swear all the time, but I might tell you to fuck off if you're annoying me. Try to meet people with loving kindness too, but there's something about swearing. I think it's quite liberating, and I won't apologize for it.
I love that.
I love it too. I think it's a great way for us to express ourselves.
Yeah.
And I particularly love when women like you, Lisa, and Ianthe, who have this almost like angelic, sweet, kind persona most of the time. When you guys swear, it does something to me. I love it so much. So please don't stop.
Well, it's a fucking release every once in a while, isn't it?
It really fucking is. It really is. And if you haven't had a good fucking swear in a while, just say it all out now, right out loud. Come on, you can do it. You're in good
company. You're safe with us. Oh my gosh. So how do people find you, Lisa, who want to work with you, who are saying, I need to be in this woman's energy. I need all the things that she has to offer. Where do they find you, and what are you offering right now?
Sure. I offer a whole range of things, and it really depends on where you are in your journey. I actually have a blog called Flucking Flourishing, which is pretty unapologetic, I'm telling you now, and it's real talk and it's in your face. And so if that's something that you feel like you need, most of that is free. So that's kind of the first step if you're wanting to dip your toe a little bit into that energy. And if you Google Flucking Flourishing, that is the only thing that comes up.
Love it.
It's on Substack, but yeah, if you subscribe, it'll come straight to your inbox. I am on Inst and I'm Lisa Bolin _flourish. I have a website, flourish.ax. Where I live is a very special little place and it has its own domain name and it's .ax. And I offer, really kind of bespoke. I have programs that you can take a look at, whether it's 3 months or 6 months, even one-off programs. I have little courses that you can dip your toe in if you want to.
And your writing exercises, are you still doing that? Because you were leading.
Yeah,
I got to be a part of. I love.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I run workshops and some of them will involve doing a visualization and going really deep and then using that to tap into your creativity and go a little bit deeper. I just recently ran a workshop which will be free or available until the end of January, which was vision board and intention setting for 2025. And that's something I think I'm going to dip in again every quarter this year. So
I love that.
Yeah, that'll be available for a little bit longer, and there'll be another live one of those a little bit later in the year. So yeah, hit up my website or find me on Instagram mostly or Substack. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on your amazing podcast.
And do you have a podcast that you forgot to mention? Am I right?
Oh, I did. I have a podcast. I do have a podcast.
Sister to Podcast Sister. Let's go. What is the podcast?
Yeah, okay. So it's called As You Are Podcast. We host it on Substack, but you can find it on Spotify and Apple. And it is a collaboration with a beautiful human being, Whit Stewart, who is a coach and breathwork specialist. And she's based in London, but she is from the US. And we have discussions not dissimilar to yours.
Maybe all 4 of us need to have one.
I think we do.
That would be fun.
Yeah, it would be really fun. It is awesome. And so we have conversations, and we have just today dropped a beautiful interview with Rhea, who is in human design. And it is a fantastic discussion. But yeah, we've got maybe 10 or so episodes right now, depending on when you're listening to this. Maybe we've got more. So
beautiful.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah. I love that.
Well, thank you so much for being with us. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please do leave us a 5-star review and share us with a friend. We will be back again next Wednesday.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on Unapologetic Uplift. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share the love and tell a friend about us and give us a review.
Please don't miss a thing. Subscribe to this podcast and explore our sponsors, Objects with Purpose, Eco Luxury Candles, and Divine Activation membership.
Objects with Purpose is more than an eco-luxury candle brand. They are time travel devices in the form of a candle. Light the 3 wicks representing past, present, and future with the validation that you are exactly where you need to be. And if you're ready to raise your level of consciousness and step into your unapologetic, unfiltered, and unbothered era, join the Divine Activation membership at cuttingties.coach/queen. With 3 tiers to choose from, you'll find the perfect fit to support your transformation.
Thank you for your listening and love. We'll see you next Wednesday on Unapologetic Uplift.
Welcome to the Divine Activation membership, a movement for women that are ready to raise their consciousness and step into their unapologetic, unfiltered, and unbothered era.
With your heart, live authentically, and become the magnet for all of your soul's desire.
Grow, connect with your heart and body, release unhealthy and unhelpful thought patterns, heal old wounds, create new neural pathways, and reprogram your subconscious with high-value beliefs so you can manifest the life you're meant for.
Ready to take a break from what's holding you back? Visit cuttingties.coach and join the Divine Activation membership today. Hey, unapologetic souls. I'm Ianthe Mauro, founder of Objects with Purpose, candles that touch the soul and the body. I've released a limited edition 3-wick candle collection in 3 fragrances inspired by a time in history. The Time Travel Collection, because scent evokes memory and lighting a candle can truly transport you to your highest self. Anytime.
Ianthe's candles are truly special, clean, safe, even for the body as a solid perfume or massage oil, and smell amazing. But what truly fills her heart is empowering others to be seen in their best light.
In 2020, when the 200 stores that sold my candles across the country closed their doors, I knew it was time to give back. I started guiding others to launch their own candle companies and design candles and fragrances for other brands as a way to share light in a dark time.
So why settle for just any conventional candle? Light the 3 wicks in each Objects with Purpose candle. You're supporting handmade in California, small batch, artisanal, eco-luxury, and treating yourself to a memory-evoking evolution. Visit ianthemauro.com to discover your next favorite candle. Let the olfactory experience inspire cherished memories.